All right. Hi, everybody, and welcome to session 3, GitHub 101 session 3, where we are going to be talking about issues, about how to use issues. So we've been talking about how to use GitHub in an open science project, a lab-based open science project, and trying to understand why we might want to use it in addition to everything else we're doing. And we've talked previously in the first 2 sessions about why we might want to do that. Open science has all these advantages of allowing people to participate and bringing the best minds to a problem, and involving people, maybe from settings that are non-traditional, and all of these things. But it has to be something which can incorporate well into your workflow. And so the stuff we do shouldn't be a burden. We have explored how to get GitHub set up to host a project, so to a place to put your project. And again, GitHub's useful because it's well made and extremely open, and I think pretty simple to use. We talked about one important aspect of a science project, which is explaining to people where we are up to. And that really is essential. It's why we publish papers. It's why when we meet people over coffee, we describe the science we're doing and why and where we're up to and what's needed, so that people can understand what we're doing. And the thing that we haven't had so far is a way of having discussions about a project. So easily communicating with people on specific things. So a little bit more of the nitty-gritty and a little bit more of the discussions of specific results and what they mean and what might be needed. Or things like meetings, and organizing meetings, having an agenda, and then having action items and stuff like that. So this session is about, just making a note because I've remembered I've got to talk about something. This session is about issues, how to use issues. So let's do that, and I will show you a the screen that I'm looking at, which is this. And so we, as I said, have been looking at, just on any particular repository, it doesn't matter what it is. We've been looking at the wiki, which is the story so far, and hopefully you've all now got your own repository, or maybe multiple, and you've got this kind of structure in place. So you can begin populating some of these pages. That's fine. But then the issues tab is over here, and this is where we talk about specific things, right? So if you want to report a new result, let's say we've got some new biological data, and you just want to dump it somewhere so it can be seen. Or you've got a question you want to ask about something, or you've been working on something for a month and you want to post an update about where you're up to, and it's still not necessarily completely finished, and you want to share a bunch of data about what you've done. Again, the detail of the data, the real detail of the data need to go in your lab notebook, but this is a good place. These issues are a good place of highlighting key results that are new, or questions that need to be answered. So here's one example where someone had raised a question about synthesis of enantiomers of some compound, right? And it doesn't really fit anywhere, but it's important that people see it and look at it. And so here, this person, this contributor to the project, is posting a question about some of the molecules we're looking at, and a question is being asked, and some links are being shared, and someone has been tagged. He's been tagged here, right? So it's a question about something. Let's have a look at some other example, maybe from the project that Tom has been driving, which is, some of these things are quite busy. We had an issue here where Tom was asking for suggestions from the public to dock, of molecules that could be docked in to a particular target. And so has shared this idea here and has made a video, which you can link to, that describes what it is, and then gives some rules about what needs to be done, and can share pictures about what's needed, and some recent results and things, right? It's really easy to start these issues and to ask these questions, and to some extent we did the difficult thing first. The wiki was the difficult thing, and the issues are actually quite straightforward. So I'm going to go to the thing that I was messing around with, so this sort of template one here, and I'll just pretend to start an issue. just so you can see what it's like. Now I've got on my dummy repository, I don't have any issues yet, right? But I can easily start one. So if there's none there already, then you can just start a new issue and you get this thing, which is pretty obvious. And you add in a template. So it opens up a sort of template page. And you can give your issue a title, and then you can ask your question. Everyone, I had the best idea yesterday for a new molecule. I think we should make this. And so then obviously what you've got to do is try and make it clear to people, what it is you're talking about. So pictures are pretty useful for this. I think I have I can probably just drag something in from here. Let me just on another screen, so you're not, I don't think you're seeing this, but I can just drag in some random file. And I think it's just so the sharing images in issues is really straightforward, and you can just drag something from your desktop in, and it's really quite easy. It'll appear when you drag it in like that, it'll appear like that with a bunch of garbage, right? And you can also insert pictures, I think, in the same way that we talked about in the wiki session, in a sort of more formal way if the file is already on GitHub, right? So there's both ways, but from a usability perspective, it's much easier to do it this way. And then you can say, what do you think? And then you can also very usefully tag people if you want them to be specifically alerted to the fact you're having this conversation. So you can add in, someone like Eve. I could say, what do you think, Eve? And then she'll get an alert to the fact that I've asked a question in a way that maybe she wouldn't if you didn't tag her immediately. It depends on your settings of how you're kind of watching different repositories. You can tailor the alert settings that you get for each thing to suit your needs. But if you tag someone like this, they should definitely get an alert. Now you can just submit this issue and then it's live, and the alert to Eve would be triggered when I do that. Or you can preview what it's going to look like by just clicking the little preview tab there. And then just switch between the two, which is quite useful. But as soon as you hit submit, then it goes public, and that's it. So we can just do that. And then you'll see the image being rendered. If you want to change that, you're going to have to go back in and modify the size or what have you, but hopefully it looks okay. Like I said, GitHub doesn't use ChemDraw ever. So if you want to share a ChemDraw file, you can just drag it there if I wanted to. So if I realize I've forgotten something, I can say, well, you can just edit the original, right? That's a key thing. You can just edit this if you made a mistake or if you want to add to it, right? Which is sensible if you're just going to correct something. Or if someone else had left this comment and I wanted to reply to it, then I can just reply with a comment here. I forgot the technical file. And I should just be able to drag that. Now, traditionally, this doesn't work for ChemDraw files, but let's see what happens. Yeah, okay, it doesn't like that, right? So it doesn't like ChemDraw files. So if you wanted to upload the ChemDraw file, you have to compress it or zip it or this file format here, zip, or do something else like that. But it's one of the few file formats. If you look at all the file formats that it accepts, it's one of the few file formats it doesn't like because it doesn't know what it is. So you may want to just transform it into something else. But it is nice to share ChemDraw files so that we can all have them. You just have to convert it to something else, like a zip. But Excel and Word and PowerPoint and picture files, no problem at all. Right? Okay, so if I want to post that, then I can. Okay, and then it becomes a comment, right? So these kind of things can build up, and of course you can. The idea is if you're doing something specific, like you're trying to figure out how an assay works, or you're trying to understand the correlation of some data or something like that. You've generated a figure or you've completed a synthesis, then you can post this as a kind of news item, right, on this page, and it allows people to see what's going on. Crucially, though, for these kinds of things, the idea really is to post something which is going to be time limited. It doesn't just stay here forever. The idea ultimately is for this to go away and to be closed. Now there are a couple of ways in which you can, so like a conversation, it finishes, right? It reaches a conclusion and it's been useful, but now it's over. And so there are a couple of ways in which that can happen. One is that it just becomes out of date, right? So imagine it's some meeting that we held, and then everything that we agreed to do has been done, and it's all over. You can just then close it because there's no need for it to be there anymore if everything is now obsolete. The other way of doing the other reason for closing something is because it's kind of finished, but the information on this page is not been put anywhere else yet. And so one way of closing is to make sure that the stuff that's on this issue has been linked and included in the wiki. So when we close this, which you'll see in a minute, it's currently open, as you can see from this little green thing here. When we close it, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't get deleted. It just becomes closed, and it goes onto a separate list of closed things. But you can still access it with the same link, which is useful. It's just you kind of get it off the table. But it's very easy to close something and then people to forget about it, and then you'll lose the contents of the discussion if it's not linked somewhere. So good practice would be to make sure this is linked somewhere else, at least somewhere else. And there are two ways of doing that. One is with the wiki. So you can just say something like, I mean, I've got my synthetic chemistry overview thing here, right? So I can, actually what I want to do is just open this in a new window. So let me just do that. Because I'm going to need the thing. So I can make sure I don't miss it by saying something like the initial molecule was suggested by Matt. And then you can give a link to where you did that, right? But it was decided that this was a bad idea. All right, so that it's sort of closed, right? And the link to this page is just the URL up top there, and so you're just gonna put that in there, right? And the discussion then, imagine we had a bunch of discussion and people said, oh, this is a bad idea, so we're not going to do that. Why didn't that say? Oh, I didn't do that. Okay, I think I just lost that text. Great, that's really useful. Unless it did save. Oh, it's great. It's done. So this is now linked here. So this link takes me to that previous issue where we've got that, right? So imagine that was the case. We had a whole discussion about this molecule and we thought it was a bad idea, or Eve thought it was a bad idea, right? When she answered this query here. So to get rid of this now, because it's going to clutter things up, if this is now no longer needed, what you can do is you can say closing because the discussion indicated this was a bad idea. And then you can say something like linked on the wiki. So people know that it's not going to die, right? It's not going to become an orphan issue that no one's going to remember. It's now linked on the wiki. So this page is linked somewhere. It's not forgotten. And then once you've done that, you can close it with the comment. And your issue now is closed. So when you then go to the issues tab, it doesn't appear anymore. It says there's a little closed one, right? So you can still see them, no problem at all, right? But they're not the primary focus of discussions, okay? If you've made a mistake with that, it's not a one-time thing. You can just reopen it again, right? So you can say, I'm going to reopen that. And then you can type something about why. Second thoughts. And start talking about why it might be a good idea, and so on. And you can reopen it, and so it goes back to the open list, and then you can start again. But the idea with these things is not to have issues that stay there for years. The idea is to have a discussion, get to an endpoint, and then incorporate that somewhere else, like incorporate the data or the conclusion from it in the wiki. And it can be that the whole issue, which is pages long, can be summarized by a single line in the wiki. That after a bunch of discussion, it was decided to make these 5 molecules and just link to the wiki, right? Link to the issue, the original issue, where all the discussion has taken place. So that's a way of putting images there, making sure that the issue is going to be closable, right? It's not just going to sit there. You can tag specific people. You can close issues and reopen them, right? You can, if things get really cluttered, do other things, like if things are annoying, you can hide comments if they become too numerous. Again, they don't disappear, but you can hide it because it's outdated or something. right? And then it becomes hidden, right? And you can clear out the page if you want to. If you've got like 30 comments, it can get a bit long, and you can start to tidy it up a little bit if you want to. And then the other thing about issues that really is very useful, and was a problem for many years working on open science projects, where we would have separate discussions that weren't linked, is that you can easily refer between issues, and GitHub tracks the links between them. Okay, so this is issue number 1. Let's pretend that I started a new issue number 2. And this one is about importance of para-Cl substituent or something, and we have a discussion about that, let's say, and we can talk about the fact that chlorine in the 4 position is thought to be important or something, and you end up talking about something, but it's relevant to some other issue that you've already had. And you can refer to issues that way by just saying as can be seen in, and then like number 1, right? And this little pop-up happens, and it realizes when you use the hashtag thing like that, that you're referring to an issue. So hashtag refers to an issue, and you put a number there, and it knows what it is. You just click on that, and it, or just type it, and it knows what it is. It knows you're talking about issue number 1, right? And so when you submit that issue, it sees that number 1, and it knows you're talking about issue number 1, right? Which is useful. So it's a sort of live thing. But the really useful thing is that when you go to issue number 1, it already has inserted a backlink to the thing you've just been talking about. So it automatically connects conversations that are relevant to each other just by using one of the, if you refer to one issue, the original issue refers back to where you are, right? So it's a very nice way of tying in conversations and keeping things that are relevant connected, which is pretty nice. Okay, so that's the tagging and the issue idea. That's also, uploading the files and mentioning people, hiding things, and linking to wikis. That's useful. All right. Another way of tagging people is by tagging teams as well, just to mention this feature. So you can define teams on GitHub, and these are within the parent organization. You'll see under SGC here, and if you're open source malaria or whatever, there's the same kind of idea that within an organization there are teams, and you can define these teams, which are simply collections of individuals who are working on the same project. So if you want to, and people can join these, or you can add people to various teams. So if you create a new team, you can define what it is, and then you can start adding people to it as you wish, which is very useful. And then if you everyone working on a particular Open Chemistry Networks project will be part of a team, and you can define that. And then if you want them to alert everyone, say you're having a meeting and you want to make sure everyone realizes it, you can just use these team names to alert people. So if we went back to my pretend one, and I wanted to organize a meeting or something, and I could say, hey, let's all talk about this at the next meeting or something, and then I put that team there, then I can refer to this team itself, and that will ping everyone in the team. Which is pretty useful, and it's very easy to use. Just don't overuse it. Obviously, in the Mycetoma project, we have quite a big core contributing team, and every time we have a meeting, we just add that, and everyone gets an alert that that's what we're doing. I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to ping people unnecessarily. But it's a very easy way of keeping teams together as well, which is nice. All right, what else have we got here? So I guess I'll show you some recent Mycetoma meetings. We have lots of these. We have monthly meetings, and it's got its own repository now. And some of these agendas have become quite big now because lots of things are sort of on the table. So this is an agenda for the meeting that we had on the 31st, just to give you a sense of how this is used. So this is a meeting. There's an Outlook invite, and there's a bunch of stuff here. Link to a previous meeting. Eventually, there'll be a link to the recording there once the person who's recorded it has uploaded it. and then you have various things that are described and talked about, lots of links to previous issues. And you can, when you have the meeting, you can edit this, and you can use the comments below to have like actions and things that were decided and so on. So it's a really nice way of having openly available minutes and stuff. There's a nice little feature here where you can add in a little checklist of things that need to be done. So I can show you how to set that up, little check boxes. It just takes 1 second to do that. If you want to assign people to things, so I'm going to go back to my template and look at my issue and this molecule that we think is going to be really great. And I can say, okay, it was decided that what have we got on here? Well, we can have, I forget everyone's at tag. So I'm going to do Eve again because I know what this is. It was either Eve is going to make this. All right. And to assign someone to do that, there's a little task list thing here, and it's very simple. That button just inserts this text to make this molecule by the day. All right. And then you when you click comment on there, then it appears as a thing, but also there's a little checkbox here which indicates it's an action. It's quite useful. And then it come 5 p.m. and Eve's got her sample. She can sort of tick that, right? And just by clicking the box, it's done, and then we all know it's done. And then she can comment down here that, yeah, I've made it, it's all good. So again, if you want to use this as a way of organizing things, and you want to sort of express some actions which are quite succinct, you can use this as a way of doing that, and people can tick them when they're done, which is quite neat. Now, as with all the other things, I bet there are loads of things that I don't know how to do here so far. There are lots of different functions on this page which you can explore at will. So you can pin issues, you can transfer them, you can delete them. The two that I guess are quite useful are the two top things here, assignees and labels. They can be quite handy. So if I thought that now that Eve was going to make this molecule, I could assign Eve to this by clicking Eve as the assignee, and then I click off that, and then it shows that she's been assigned to this thing, so it's on her, and it says that that's what I did, when I did it, so you can see who's done that. And then if the labels thing is a way of trying to organize issues, which can become quite complicated as a list of things, and yet there may be a collection of issues related to one thing and another bunch of issues that are related to another thing. So you can define your own labels, and each repository is different. So these are tags of things. Now, when you click this initially, you'll get a bunch of stuff that you think, what the heck is this? These are the sort of suggested issues for software people. All right, so they're probably not very useful for us, right? Maybe some are, but they're probably not very useful. So you'll probably want to edit your own and define your own list. And you have to do this for each repository slightly. Unfortunately, it doesn't, at least I don't think it works across repositories unless someone has a great solution. But you can define your own. So you can either edit an existing one. So I can change this nice red one here to something like being synthesized now, right? And I can save that. And so I can actually, wait a minute, I've realized I've got that. So I can give it a little descriptions being made. So I can use that one. Or if I don't like the colors, right, I can change the color. I can just ping the color and get a different one each time, and it just cycles through, an infinite number of colors. Or I can define a new one, saying, new data incoming or something. And then something or something like that, and create the label. And then I can go back to the issues and then give some of these issues a slight flavor. So I can add in the being synthesized now one, right? And then that appears here again. It will appear here, but there is eventually that I've assigned that, so it knows who's done it. And then when you go back to the list of issues, you start getting these colors appearing, which sort of indicate what the issue might be about. And if you click on the issue, then it'll give you all of the issues with that label. So this is quite a neat way that we've played around with a little bit. It didn't quite work when we did it, but maybe we did it wrong. Quite a neat way of keeping an up-to-date list of molecules that are being made right now is you give them the tag being synthesized now. And then if you want to see what's being made right now, you just click on that and it gives you the list of molecules that are being made. And that means you don't have to sort of maintain some page like on the wiki with a diagram that keeps on changing. You can just say, okay, I'm making this thing now because of this, for this reason, and just put the tag on there, and then it gets added to that list of being synthesized now. So you can imagine using this for delineating, which this user to do with meetings and which is to do with biology or computational chemistry, or where a question is being asked about an assay or something like that. You can link and group discussions about things, which is really quite useful. One last thing is that, we want to make everything really machine readable, and it helps if we can add things that allow molecules to be found and discussions to be found. Obviously, all the stuff here is public domain, so it's really easy to find discussions either through Google or through what is actually a very good search function. So if you type in phrases here, it actually does really well at picking out things in your repository or across the whole of GitHub where certain things appear, which is good. But the machine readability of molecules we always talk about. And I'm just generating a smile string because GitHub, again, is not a chemistry thing, right? It's not designed for chemistry, and it does sometimes struggle with smile strings. So if I paste in the smile string of the molecule that we had in the first issue, and then I comment there, typically it screws it up. Although actually that hasn't done too badly. I think that actually works. Oh yeah, no, I think sometimes the smile string doesn't work when you generate a smile string that has an @ symbol in it, and I think sometimes it thinks that you're talking about someone. So sometimes it doesn't work, and when you search, it doesn't come up and it gets all confused. So just be aware of that sometimes it doesn't work so well for some technical chemistry stuff. So ChemDraw files and some smile strings don't work, but there should be ways around that. I don't know. I think you can quote text in some way that makes it not active. I think you sort of quote it and then it becomes plain text. Or of course you can copy something as something else which doesn't have little @ symbols in it, like inshi, and hopefully that works. Yeah. So these things seem to be okay, and they'll probably be found by Google. But just be careful if you have an @ symbol in there, it becomes like a hyperlink and it screws it up. So and so I think that was everything. We talked about why, given an example, included the tags and @ing people, trouble with smiles, mentioning individuals, and then the actions, hiding things, linking to the wiki, and closing issues when they no longer serve a purpose, but not in a way that orphans them. So no issue should be an orphan. It should be linked somehow, somewhere. All right. I think that's pretty much everything. But please let me know if you have any questions, because the idea now is that you would go away and start some issues of simple things that you want people to know about, like the resynthesis of a hit, or like the design of which 10 analogs of a hit we're now going to order and make. Or I've been trying to make this molecule for 2 weeks and it's still giving me this annoying impurity in the NMR. What is it? Things like that, where you can ask specific things and hope to get a specific answer. It's also, I hope it goes without saying, it's also really easy to share links to issues, right? So you just copy the URL for the issue and you can just mail that to someone or include it in a conversation, and the person can come right here with no sign in and can see what it is you're talking about. Okay, so it's very easy. I think to create issues in SGC or open source malaria or whatever, you have to be a member. I think to reply to issues and discuss things, you just have to be a member of GitHub. I think that's the way around it is. So you can post things if you're a member of the organization, but you can discuss things if you are a member of GitHub without being a member of the organization, I think, which enhances the ability for people to discuss things, I think. All right. Were there any questions about any of that? Hopefully everyone is empowered to go away now and start issue something. Like I said, it's got to be helpful, right? And you've got to include enough detail that people can understand what it is you're talking about, without the detail being overwhelming. So it's a fine line. Ultimately, you want to have your conversation, finish it, decide something, link to it on the story so far, or put it somewhere else. All right. Any queries? I assume you're all still there because no one's got their camera on apart from Evans. Maybe just Evans is listening and he's going to report back to everybody.
No, hey, you're here.
Oh, they live. Okay. People are alive. That's great. Great. Just want to be sure everyone's actually still breathing.
Thanks, Matt. I'll start posting after research update tomorrow.
Great. Yeah, do. I mean, it's meant to be a place to, to dump everything. Like I said, it's also, if you get, data from a collaborator, right? So let's say someone does a screen and there's this enormous Excel sheet of all the data, right? And you basically, you think you know what it is, but you haven't got time to sort of fold it into the wiki yet. You haven't got much time to deal with it, but you want to basically conclude something about it. You can just dump it in an issue, say new data incoming on this date, here's the file, and then have some conclusions or something, but put it there and then put a tag on it saying, data that needs to be incorporated into the wiki or project or whatever, but at least it's there, right? And it can be discovered and found and can be used by others. So it's a great way of dealing with that, of making sure that if you get things on email, you can transport them over. You may find there are certain situations in which people correspond with you about something and by email, and there's a discussion which happens by email, right? And it's very common because a lot of people we interact with aren't on GitHub, right? And in that case, you can, if you want to try and make sure that the conversations are linked, so the thing you're doing on an issue is linked to the email that you're having, then you either paraphrase what the person has said in the email and try and keep it updated, try and keep everything in one place, or you just ask their permission. Is it okay if I just copy what you just put in the email and just dump it in the relevant place in GitHub? Because the point you made is good and it's relevant to this thing I'm discussing, right? Some people do that. They see the discussion on the GitHub issue in the open and they send you an email in private, and that's absolutely fine, obviously. But just try and keep things linked in that case, if you can. And sometimes that means asking permission. All right, good. Well, hopefully either that was extremely clear or so bewildering that everyone is stunned into silence. So it's one or the other, isn't it? Hopefully it's the former and it's all really clear. We've now done why and wiki and issues, and that is almost all of it. I was thinking this morning we need one more session, I think, on this, and the one more session is a little thing about how to get people involved who don't know what you're doing but could help. Okay, and I'll have a little session on that about ways we might want to do that using everything we've done, but it'll be a short session because ultimately the open science is about doing the best possible science. But the best possible science can happen if you have really great people contributing, right? The best people contributing who are most interested in your project and are well qualified to do so. And sometimes alerting those people to your work and framing your research question in a way that they find interesting and possible to interact with can involve some advertising, not paying anything, right? But just making it clear to people what it is you're doing. And so we'll have a brief session on that, a session 4, right? How is it that, the molecule we've been talking about in this session, imagine there was someone who has made molecules like that. How do we find that out? How do we reach out to that person? How do we try and get them involved in our project? Okay, so we'll do that as a small 4th session, I think. But for now, I think that's everything we need to say about issues. All right, okay. Hopefully that's all fine. Thanks for coming along.
Yes, bro.
I will post the video ASAP, but please go ahead and start posting issues to bring your project to life.
All right, Prof. After our session last time, I posted on Wiki. Were you able to see it? Do you need to open before you see it, or you have a notification?
I will look at that.
I mean,
I don't remember. I'll check it. I don't remember getting an alert, but I'll check it. Maybe I missed it.
Okay. I was just asking if I post or anyone else post, do I have an alert, or you just need to open before you find the information?
I think if you post an issue, you'll get an alert if people reply. But like I said, you can tweak that. There's a little button on notifications, and you can change the level of notifications to locked or none. But if you want to be sure, then you just put @ and then Matt, and it'll come up with my name.
Okay.
And then you can make sure by @ing someone, you make sure they get an alert.
And is that the same with Wiki?
No, that doesn't work with a wiki. It only works on the
Okay.
issues, I'm afraid.
Okay, for Wiki, you need to open before you see.
Yeah. Let me check. I may have gone a little, but let me go and check, and then we can figure that out.
All right.
Shall I ask a question, or maybe shall I email it maybe later?
If it's I've got like 4 minutes. So I've got 4 minutes. So if your question is,
Okay.
I'll just
So to what extent the open source science is shareable? So we know that some people from the open source malaria and the SGC are capable of seeing that, but at some point you had some collaborators before, and you might have some collaborators after that. So is it shareable on social medias, for example, as an example?
Oh yeah. So that's what we'll do next time. That's the advertising thing, the sharing thing. We'll do that next time, because I think it's pretty simple, but we'll cover it separately.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Come in tomorrow. I'll see you all.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.